Why do we like being with someone who listens to us? Because feeling heard makes us feel validated, respected, and understood. Be it our friends, family, people at work, or someone we met at a party, a good listener always validates the conversation. Every healthy relationship, be it personal or professional, is as much about listening as about getting the space to share our thoughts. And so, active listening becomes an indispensable life skill. So, let's get straight to the 5 ways we can become a better listener. Being a good listener works both ways. It makes the other person feel validated, but it also helps us understand them better, and so we get to know how to best keep that connection thriving. And to listen effectively, the focus needs to be primarily on the other person. It's essentially about giving them space to explore their thoughts. Our role as a listener is to create a safe space where they can think out aloud, explore their thoughts, and create a verbal mind map of their thoughts without any judgment or unsolicited advice. We will go into the technical side of how to do it in the next point, but right now it's about creating the right foundation, the most effective mindset going into any conversation. What a good listener essentially does is let the other person find their way through the layers of thoughts, ideas, emotions, and facts, nudging the conversation back on track when they start branching off, encouraging them to look for a pattern, a meaning, basically make sense of things. It's all about keeping our focus on what's important to them and letting them sort through their thoughts to find a pattern, because that means we are respecting their inherent intelligence and coming up with a solution for their own problems. That's why talking to someone who listens feels so good and brings so much clarity to whatever was dominating our thoughts. Now, before moving on to the little things that make the other person feel heard, let me quickly first introduce myself. My name is Nandita, and I'm on a journey to have a bigger say in how things look in my life. And if that's something you too would like in, then this channel is for you. Now, as Charles Dickens said, the worst of all listeners is the man who does nothing but listens. When someone is telling us something, they are looking for cues from us too to understand our level of interest in the conversation. The easiest place to start is minding our actions. Research shows that people feel more understood when their and the listener's gestures match. So it's a good idea when listening to someone to match their level of eye contact, their hand movements and posture, and also give them our undivided attention without getting distracted by the phone or what's happening around. Because think how it feels when you're talking to someone and they're either fidgeting or they're looking at you, but you know their thoughts are far away. It does kind of make one feel unimportant, doesn't it? And to better show you are listening to them, instead of the occasional or okay, try asking them questions like, so you feel, and then summarize whatever they were saying. Or if possible, list the solutions they were hinting at and ask them which one do they think is the best one. These will make whatever you say feel more relevant, because you are simply reflecting back what they are consciously or subconsciously thinking. Also, to become a better listener, learning when to be silent is important, because chipping in with our insights and offering advice can sometimes make them feel dissatisfied and more confused than before. It's important to let the person finish without waiting for our turn. It's easy to get caught up in what we think about the situation and to keep repeating the response in our head to remember it better when it's our chance to speak. But doing so, our focus shifts to our own thoughts and we end up missing a lot of the conversation. See, our brain has a default setting called the DMN, or the default mental network. What this does is it feels all the time we aren't focusing on anything particular, with thoughts from the past, the future, and lots of other things. So that means it's totally normal to start thinking of all the pending work or what's for dinner when someone has been talking for a long while. And so the key to become a better listener is to remember the reason why we are in this conversation in the first place. How does it matter to us, and why is it even important? Because when we know something has value in our life, it makes us more likely to stay focused on that thing. Even when talking to someone for the first time, if we can find the importance of that connection in our life, maybe knowing them would make our time there more enjoyable, or maybe they'll look like someone interesting to know. Anything that convinces us of the value, of the importance of that connection will help us stay more focused on the conversation. And when we give our full attention to someone, we not only remember their name, but also something special about them. And they like us better for it, because we all like that person who can remember our name or ask about something we talked about the last time, because that shows they care and we are important to them. That's one of the most simple and effective ways to connect better with people. At work, when we give our undivided attention to what's being said, not only does it help us stay aware of everything important, but also helps us see a more well-rounded picture, pick up on the subtle hints that can give us an edge over others and help make more effective decisions. The next one is about those non-verbal hints that help us see more than the words are telling us. But before we get into that, if you're finding this helpful, like this video to keep it handy, and also it will make it easier for it to reach other people who might find it useful. Appreciate that. As Ralph Nichols said, the most basic of all human needs is the need to understand and be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. Now, even when we think we are clearly following what's being said, the other person thinks we are not getting the point. This mostly happens because we are more focused on the words and not what their tone, gestures, and general trend of their thoughts is telling us. Those are the things that create the background against which their words convey a different meaning. And so when we listen, not only with our ears, but also our eyes, we are better able to guide that conversation in a way that makes them feel, this person really gets me. Like when someone is talking about how crappy their day went and how nothing went right, if we can keep our focus on the one thing that they are going back to again and again, that's making them feel uncomfortable every time they are talking about it, we will be able to pinpoint the one thing that's bothering them. And if you can help them process that one incident, it will make them feel understood. When we talk with someone, it's not just the words that matter. What we observe and what the other person observes in us makes us understand each other better. That's what helps us become a better listener. Now, it's important to go into a conversation with an open mind, because people have different personalities, and that is what makes each one of us unique. We don't have to like everyone's point of view, because it's totally okay to not be able to see from the other person's point of view. Just staying curious is good enough to become a better listener. Because when we judge someone on what they are saying, it starts a parallel stream of thoughts in our head that feels more interesting, and so we stop paying attention to what's being said. A good listener saves up their judgment to be indulged in on their own time. In the moment, it's about the other person and their view of life. Now, sometimes when the other person's point of view doesn't match ours, some things they say can sometimes feel personal. But even though it might seem so, it's not always about us. It's easy to take things personally when something the other person said touches a raw chord in us. We get defensive, stop listening past that point, and focus only on how we are going to respond to that. And the whole conversation ends up taking a very different turn. So knowing how not to take things personally too quickly not only helps us become a better listener, but also removes a lot of unnecessary complications from our life. I'll link the video over here if you would like to know how to handle these situations better, know when to take things to heart, and when it simply doesn't add to our life. You take care, and I'll see you soon.